The winning streak continues. It is the fifth straight monthly gain for the Dow. We told you right at the top of the show. Let's bring in today's panel to talk about it all. Scott Martin from Kingsview Asset Management. He's also a Fox News contributor. And Kevin Kelly in studio, no less. He's here from Recon Capital. Gentlemen, thank you both for being here. All right, Scott, let me begin with you. It doesn't seem to matter. It seems to me that economy is growing 3%, according to the last reading. Earnings are growing. So the markets, where are they going to go? They're going to go up, right?
Yeah, Ash, and I'll tell you what's also happened in the last couple of weeks is that economic data points that in our research have been kind of weakening over the summer. They've been, as the kids like to say, meh. They're actually starting to get a lot better. You know, you saw the GDP number. Yeah, that's a technical term, by the way. You saw the GDP number at 3%. We got a non-farm payroll number that looks north of what, 250 tomorrow? Yeah. So that kind of momentum is exactly building in the economy that we've been waiting for via promises from Donald Trump for 8 months now.
You know, Kevin, listen, I was just looking today. We got jobless claims less than expected. We had consumer spending picking up in July. Wages are growing. Even when we see that little knockback on the markets, when we had the last incident involving North Korea, for instance, it's not long before the buyers jump back in. Is that the pattern right now? And where's the end to that pattern? Or are we just going to keep moving higher?
Well, there's no end to that pattern given the fact that the global economy is also doing very well. So when you take a holistic picture of the market, that's where these companies operate. So technology is the largest sector, and they get 47% of their revenues overseas. So as China does better, as Europe does better, these companies' results are going to do better because the market is predicated on earnings. And as their earnings get better, they're worth more, especially in a low interest rate environment. Look at the 10-year Treasury, right? We've hovered below 2.2% on the 10-year Treasury over the past few weeks. So there's no really other alternative than to get into some of the biggest and best names, and that's the U.S. market.
Well, you better keep investing because you're sending all your money straight to Uncle Sam, guys. The average American, look at this, is spending more on taxes than on food and clothing combined. That's according to new data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. And it might not get better anytime soon. Nearly 8 in 10 Americans don't believe tax reform is even going to pass this year. That is according to a new Fox News poll. Scott, these numbers are pretty depressing.
They make me sad, Cheryl. And, you know, it doesn't get talked about very much. But remember, this is a U.S. Treasury Department that received record revenues last year as far as tax receipts. Yet, when we talk about tax reform, it's all this hullabaloo. And yes, it's kind of from the left, but also some members on the right that are like, well, it's got to be revenue neutral. It can't be permanent, blah, blah, blah. You know what? This is terrible for the economy. It's terrible for the individual and business taxpayers who totally need a break because that money's going to go back in the economy and create jobs and economic growth that we have not seen for years.
You know what, though, Kevin, though, the so-called Big Six, if you will, supposedly they've been working on tax reform since July, getting, you know, the devil in the details, if you will. And Steve Mnuchin has said, the Treasury Secretary, that we are going to get everything to Congress in the next few weeks.
Yeah, it just matters what Congress does with it. I mean, think about the border adjustment tax. That actually came out in January, and that was killed. And because the tax code is 75,000 pages riddled with special interests, there's going to be a cadre of lawyers and lobbyists fighting tooth and nail to protect those interests. That's why tax reform will not happen. I'm one of those 8 out of 10 people.
Really?
Because it's going to take years for tax reform. Tax cuts, yes, that's more likely to happen and more likely to happen this year. And you can look at a precursor, which was the Reagan administration, where it took years and 2 different types of bills to get tax reform done. So for this administration to think that they can get it done this year in only a couple of months, I don't know what planet they're living on, because the U.S. government is going to extract $3.5 trillion in taxes from U.S. businesses and citizens this year, yet they still can't balance the budget. We're $20 trillion in debt. For us to think that they can get tax reform done is far-fetched.
If they don't, though, they can say bye-bye to their positions in Washington because midterms are coming. Scott, Kevin, thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.